Hello, this is Mr. Mulroy again, and now we're working on the third part of the tapered wheel bearings, and this is where we're going to have packed the wheel bearings and we're going to put it on the car, preload the bearings. And preload means to adjust the bearings. Okay, so number one, what we need is the multi-purpose extreme pressure wheel bearing grease, right? I think it's anyway, this is Napa Auto Parts. Grease is pretty common wheel bearing grease. It's high temperature grease, right? I'm going to take it out. See, it's nice and clean grease. Take your bearing, right? You remember you inspected the bearing yesterday. We cleaned it up really good. Now we're going to pack it. This is what you need to do. We need to get some grease in the palm of your hand, and then we're going to gouge the grease, right? We're going to take the grease, put it in the palm of your hand over here, and now on an angle push it into the bearing, push it into this opening in the bearing so that it gets down by the rollers on an angle. Push it in like this, keep on pushing it in. Okay, then when you're done with that side, go to the other side and push it in on the other side. Okay, on an angle like this. Okay, once that is done, coat the bearing nice. Then also coat the outer race of the inner bearing. Coat that up really good, okay? Put the bearing, tapered part down, okay? Take the second bearing, which is the outer bearing, go ahead and lubricate that one, okay? Again, put it in the palm of your hand, take the grease, put it in your palm of your hand, and then push it in an angular, and then rotate the bearing around. That will force the grease into the bearing, into the rollers of the bearing. Okay? Nicely lubricated bearing. Okay, put that aside, make sure no dirt gets on it. Then you can take a little bit of grease and you can coat the bearing itself that's inside with the race. You can coat that a little bit, that's fine. Okay? Now we're done. Let's go ahead and take the gloves off. Okay? Let's take the gloves off. Move it to the side. And now let's go ahead and get our grease seal. Put our grease seal on. Remember I said put the grease seal on. Okay? And then get something flat. It goes across it. And hit that guy in. Okay? Make sure it's flat. Make sure it's flush. Now that that's done, just go ahead, finally inspect your spindle. Make sure your spindle's ready to go, no dirt fell on it. And go ahead now, put on your rotor. Slowly, easily, push it all the way on, right? Next step is to get the outer bearing. Put the outer bearing, tapered part in, okay? If you want, you can get a little bit of grease. Put a little bit of grease in there. Not a lot, but you can, it's fine, okay? Now that that's done, there's a washer and the castellated nut. Okay, go ahead and screw that on all the way. When you screw it on all the way, rotate your rotor. And what you're doing now is the grease is spreading out in the bearing. It's lubricating the race and it's lubricating the bearing. All right, now to preload. To preload means to put a little bit of a load. So I'm going to put a little bit of load tight. Okay? I'm going to lubricate. I'm going to rotate it to spread the grease out. And then I'm going to back it off just a little bit. Now when I back it off, there are holes in the spindle. There's a hole that runs this way and there's a hole that runs this way. And what I want to do is, I don't want to over tighten this castellated nut. Okay? I want it just about finger tight. Right? Very, right about there, okay? Finger tight. Now when that's done, and you can look up the specifications because every vehicle is different, take a new cotter pin, run it through, right? Fold it over. Okay? Fold it over. And actually, if it fold the cotter pin over, you just bang it like that. It's all right. You cut off the end, okay, so that the cotter pin doesn't come out. It doesn't matter that it's a little bit loose in there. It's not going to come out because it's folded over. And then when you're done, you're going to finally put the cap on, right, which stops the dirt from getting inside anyway and prevents the grease from getting out. And go ahead slowly and easily hammer that on and rotate that around. Make sure the cap doesn't pop out. There. The preload is done. The bearing preload is done. Depacking the bearings, installing the bearings with a new grease seal, preloading the bearings, okay? And so now your rotor's back on, and then all you need to do now is go ahead and put what you're going to do is put your brake pads on, right? If you want to put your brake pads on, you can continue to put your brake pads on right here. Here's one, here's the other, right? There's one, here's the other. Caliper. Make sure you don't twist the brake hose. Put the caliper back on. Okay. Once you've done that, get your slide pins. Make sure they're clean. Okay, they don't have to be lubricated. These guys don't need to be lubricated that much at all. Right? It's all about keeping them clean. Okay. And then you go ahead and tighten that down. You tighten down the slide pins to the caliper. Then when you're all done with that, you've torqued down your caliper slide pins, then go ahead and hit your brake pedal a couple times, which will seat the caliper onto the rotor, and then that's it. You're done. You put your wheel back on, you put your wheel back on, and you are done, okay? Got it? Okay. That's it in a nutshell. That's how to deal with those bearings.